Hi everyone, so this video will be covering how to create scenes in GoGuardian. Um, okay, so you all can see that we're logged in again to our home page here on GoGuardian, and we're gonna go ahead and click the scenes button, which is right underneath classroom in the left side in your left menu bar here. And now, so scenes are your pre-made way to decide what your students can and cannot access. Now, it would be entirely possible for you to use GoGuardian and successfully without ever creating a scene, but I find this is one of the most helpful ways for um, setting up your class in advance so that you need to do less remediation and you have more of the students guided towards what you want them to with less room for error in terms of where they could go wrong. So we can uh, see here that we have the allow version on this side. So this is where you create a list of websites that where the default is that the students can only get to these things. And then on the right side, you can see we have blocked websites. And so blocked websites is where you create a list where students can get to anywhere they might normally be able to go, but you've got certain things that are off limits. Now, as you can see from my list here, I don't have any allow lists, and I have a few different versions of blocked lists. Now, the reason for this is because in my classroom, there's a lot of situations where we might adjust what we're doing in the middle of class. We might change the plan. We might find something and kind of extend into it differently. And so I like to use blocked because I know there are certain things I don't want my students doing over time, but I also want to give them some leeway and some open-endedness depending on where our lesson goes. Now, for certain days of the week, though, or for certain teaching styles, allow might be the better option for you. So you might create an allow list because you know, hey, they only need to be able to log in and go to this test or go to this website or your classroom, your Canvas homepage, and get to this test, and that's all they need to be on, and everything else is blocked. So that might really work for you certain days of the week, or for certain specific tasks or lessons, and then blocked might work for you for other things, right? So it just depends, and you can have lots of versions of these lists depending on your needs. So now down here you can see I have different ones that I pre-made that I've made in advance here that I use depending on what my needs are and what my daily is. So my main one that I use for my classroom is called limited tab scene. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And what you can see here is I can edit my block website lists. There are quick lists, auto open tabs, advanced filtering. All of these are different places you can go to get additional ideas on what you might want to filter. And so you can see in here I've entered certain things that I don't want my students to get to. And you can see, for example, nitro type. I generally don't want the students checking Infinite Campus. And then there's some different games I've blocked in advance that just aren't things I want students doing during my normal session, right? Now, as I find some that students do, I tend to just add them to my list periodically over the course of the year. And so depending on what you see going on in your class, you might have different things blocked or whatnot. The other thing that I use consistently, I think is one of the main advantages, is you can set a tab limit. So on here, you can see I have 5 as my tabs. I'm going to go ahead and change it to 4. And the reason for this is because in my experience, this makes it much easier for me to control, manage what my students are doing because they have 4 tabs. So they can't have, 25 tabs going on during first period. There's just, in my experience, there's no reason I would ever need them to do that. I can always change that if I really wanted to, but 4 tends to limit for most of the things we're doing in my class on a regular basis. And then I have other pre-made scenes that I set depending on the situation where I might lower that tab limit for different things. But I like 4 as my default. You might have different needs depending on that. Some folks are really like 2. That's what it is, right? So once I've changed this, I can go ahead and resave it. And now I have a scene, right? You could, of course, start this from scratch if you wanted, and change this. So I could create a new list, and that would allow me to go through these different pieces, set it up. You got the example name here, no social media. You've got a description for it. You can change your icon color, all of that. It helps you navigate. That would be fine, right? I could also do that on the allow list, so that would be the same premise here. Name them depending on days of the week or what you're doing. All of that would work. Now, the next thing I want to do with my scenes is I want to go back to classroom, and I actually think it's a good idea for you to click the settings within one of your classes, and just like we looked at the other day here, I can hit settings, and I can apply a default scene. So that limited tab scene I just created, I've now laid it in here as my default scene. And once I hit update classroom, anytime my GoGuardian runs and I just hit run on automatically, it's going to um, it's going to apply this scene here. And I can change that later if I want, but this is good because otherwise if I don't create a default scene, it'll just run GoGuardian. I'll collect the information, but it won't direct them towards the different possible or won't limit them in the ways that I want it to limit them if I don't apply the default scene. Now, another thing I wanted to cover in this video is scheduling. Now, scheduling, I think, is a great advantage if you know you want to run GoGuardian regularly so you can kind of manage. They always have some tab limit, some websites they can't ever get to access to in your classroom. There's no reason you wouldn't want this. You can schedule this in advance through the scheduling tab here. Now, you might think that oh, well, that could be really inconvenient if I determine that I don't want to run it. Well, that's okay. You can also turn this off or adjust this at any point in your class here. So I'm going to go ahead and add one here. So I'm realizing I'm going to look at my first period group, and I have this first period group for my AP session every Monday. So I'm going to go ahead and add a session to here. And what I do is I'm going to go ahead and click Monday for day of the week. And so far it's conflicting. It's telling me that because I already have an overlapping, but I'm going to add new parameters here for this. So I'm going to say I want it from 10:25 until 10:54 on here. So we'll start with 10:30 and we'll adjust that one up. And there we go. And that's on Mondays. And now I'm going to add that. And it will show up here in my scheduled sessions now when I refresh this. Yep, I have this additional Monday session here. Where now on Mondays, it will run my GoGuardian from 10:25 to 10:54 every Monday unless I ask it to do otherwise. So there you go. Hopefully that's really useful for you. You guys have got some ideas how to make scenes and how to apply your schedule to your GoGuardian defaults.